We do not stand still and are developing for you, so we bring to your attention a new voice and a new story.
I believed my wife was unfaithful and walked out on her when she danced with another man during our anniversary. 2 years passed before she confessed the truth. I doubt that I am an ideal husband. My job is demanding, and there are times when I return home irritable. I might not be the highest earner either, but we're still managing well. We own a nice house, drive luxury cars, my wife has an array of stylish clothes, and our 8-year-old daughter Jennifer possesses numerous costly toys. Essentially, I am just a diligent, ordinary man who cherishes his wife and family. Linda and I have been married for nearly 12 years, and for the greater part, those years have been blissful. However, in the recent months, there has been an unexplainable disconnect between Linda and me. It's hard to pinpoint, but she seems distant and detached. Often, she'd criticize my actions or words for no apparent reason, which wasn't typical of her behavior. I attempted to talk about it, inquiring if there was some hidden grievance against me, but like many women, she remained silent, claiming only to be slightly tired or having a bad day. At first, I assumed I would merely give her space to sort out her feelings, but as time passed, her distant demeanor became increasingly tiresome and irritating. Beyond her cold attitude, any married couple knows that unresolved issues can seep into the bedroom. Throughout our relationship, I've always strived to keep our personal life stimulating and passionate. Being a romantic at heart, I would sometimes initiate intimacy by bringing home a dozen roses after work. Previously, such displays of affection hadn't hindered me from having a nighttime rendezvous, but lately my expressions of love were returned only with a simple thank you and a cheek kiss. Instead of perceiving my affectionate gestures as they were intended, she seemed to view them as a feeble attempt to make amends for past mistakes. For weeks now, Linda had abstained from intimacy, either citing she wasn't in the mood or suffering from a metaphorical headache. On those rare instances where she relented to my entreaties, she would remain passive while I took the lead. Gradually, I found myself mentally withdrawing from the situation. Upon returning home, I would engage with my daughter and offer as little attention as possible to my wife. Naturally, all of this only exacerbated the situation. Desperate, I began analyzing everything during brief moments at work. Memories of when and how it all began resurfaced. Couldn't find a memory of anything I may have done to alter Linda's demeanor. I pondered various situations, seeking a cause and effect explanation. As my thoughts delved deeper, an improbable catalyst for Linda's behavior emerged. The question lingered. Could it be that she's unfaithful? I dismissed the thought, reassuring myself that she wouldn't stray. However, each attempt to connect events yielded a perplexing trio. Me, Linda, and a hypothetical lover. Despite my efforts to rationalize, suspicions gnawed at me, echoing the saying about curiosity. I've researched indicators of infidelity, such as changes in behavior, clothing choices, schedules, etc., although I haven't observed any striking differences in Linda's attire or dress sense. I only see her after work. As for her schedule, it remains a mystery to me. Constantly darting around, her purpose remains unclear. Yet, when observing her altered demeanor, certain signs echoed past experiences. The thought of hiring a private detective crossed my mind, but I had no concrete proof. All I harbored were suspicions and nothing substantial enough to warrant the cost of a private investigator. Instead, I embarked on self-investigation. I engaged in minor actions such as calling home during the day. Occasionally, she was there. Other times, she wasn't. Then I retrieved an old outdoor surveillance camera and covertly mounted it beneath the garage eaves. I connected it to a hidden tape recorder tucked away on the back shelf behind paint cans. I aimed to detect any unusual vehicles approaching the house, but none had appeared in 2 weeks. However, I did observe my wife leaving the house on several occasions, only to claim she'd been home all day, yet her absences didn't seem long enough for anything significant to occur unless her companion was exceptionally swift. Possibly she regarded the task as inconsequential, so she didn't bother mentioning it. It wasn't evidence of an illicit affair. Time elapsed, but I still lacked concrete proof, yet my suspicions intensified. Her disposition was deteriorating, and we hadn't shared intimacy for a fortnight. Anger was brewing within me. Our 12th anniversary was imminent, and I viewed it as a chance to revive our relationship. I desired an evening out filled with enjoyment. It had been quite some time since Linda and I enjoyed dining and dancing together. Perhaps, just perhaps, it might reignite the passion in our marriage. I was ready to attempt it. We made arrangements for Jennifer to stay at my parents' home, allowing us freedom without time constraints. I booked a table at Plato's, one of Linda's favorite restaurants. She took my arm as the maitre d' led us to our table, and I hoped that some of the old enchantment would resurface. However, for some reason, it felt somewhat tense. At dinner, we opted for a bottle of wine, and it seemed Linda was unwinding. She appeared to be returning to her familiar self. Our dialogue turned easygoing and humorous. Post-dinner, I could tell my lovely spouse was eager to hit the dance floor. I suggested visiting a recently opened dance club, but Linda persuaded me to revisit our usual spot instead. It was a pleasant place with soft lighting and an inviting dance floor. Catering to a slightly mature audience, they played music that allowed people to truly dance without much persuasion needed. To be honest, I'm not the worst dancer around. In fact, it's one of the factors that initially attracted Linda and me. We both enjoyed dancing. We secured a secluded table for two, ordered a couple of drinks, took a sip each, and then made our way to demonstrate that there's more to dancing than just two steps. It was as if we had turned back the hands of time. We were both having a blast. After around an hour of dancing, we felt somewhat fatigued and returned to our table for a brief respite. I slumped into a seat while Linda sipped her wine without sitting down, then left towards the ladies' room. As I admired my wife's movements, envisioning future intimate moments, I noticed she was captivating more than just me. A handsome man seated alone at a distant table across the dance floor seemed to be closely observing Linda's actions. For a moment, I thought they might have recognized each other when their eyes appeared to meet. Upon her departure to the restroom, it seemed as though the man was looking directly at me with a smug expression, although from this vantage point it was difficult to discern for certain. We were at a dance club, and I wondered why the man had come alone. I assumed his date, like Linda, was likely in the restroom. I watched him with a sidelong glance, waiting for my wife to return. As she walked past him on her way back, I thought I saw them both smiling and exchanging glances. My doubts resurfaced. "Darling, could you get me another glass of wine?" Linda replied. "It's stale." I felt uncomfortable and didn't appreciate the idea of Linda sitting alone while I waited at the bar for a slow bartender to fill my order. I noticed one of the waitresses and caught her eye. It seemed to me that Linda looked disappointed as the young woman approached our table to take our drink order. I felt certain the evening was about to become uncomfortable. I could sense it in my gut. Turning around, I spotted the man still stationary, clearly solitary. "Who's the man in the corner?" I inquired. My question caught Linda off guard, and for an instant I perceived what seemed like fear in her eyes. Yet she quickly gathered her thoughts. "What man?" She feigned ignorance. Her voice held a hint of unease that confirmed my suspicion. "The man you were flirting with on our way to the bathroom?" I persisted. "Honey, I have no idea what you're referring to," she claimed innocently. As our drinks arrived, I observed Linda's gaze dart swiftly towards my shoulder. Upon looking back, I saw Mr. Lonely approaching our table. He didn't so much as glance at me. Instead, he navigated towards Linda and addressed her directly. "May I ask you to dance?" he asked. Instantly, I interjected loudly. "No, thank you," I snarled. This response was not unexpected. "I was speaking to the lady," he retorted mockingly. "Yes, but the woman is my spouse, and I decide who she dances with and who she doesn't." At that instant, Linda intervened, saying, "Harry, you're being impolite." I could tell that her question took her aback. That was the individual I referred to. "I'm not aware of the circumstances between you two," I said, "but he just approached without giving me a glance and asked my wife to dance. That's not only rude, it's highly disrespectful." Mr. Lonely started to speak, but I interrupted him. "Not at all necessary. I'm discussing this matter with my wife, and frankly, I don't need your opinion." Turning to Linda, I continued, If he had asked if it was all right for him and her to dance, I might have consented, but now, under no circumstances. Harry, she said, now speaking sharply, you're being foolish. There is nothing between this man and me, and yes, we are married, but you do not own me. You're not controlling me, and if I decide to dance with someone else, I will. I couldn't believe you were speaking to me this way. It was uncharacteristic disrespect from you. I was filled with rage, and any chance of a pleasant, romantic evening with you vanished. However, I planned to restrain my anger. As I composed myself, you persisted. Darling, I just want some amusement, you said in a sugary voice now. Linda, tonight's our anniversary. I want fun too, but with you and watching you dance with someone else is not my idea of entertainment, especially when you promise not to. Now, you may dance with him if you wish, but be prepared for me to leave. After 12 years together, I can predict Linda's emotions accurately. When she looked at my face, her expression mirrored anger. It astonished me that she couldn't perceive the same anger in mine. Instead of keeping him standing while we argue, she decided to dance with him and discuss it later. She interrupted me, and the arrogant man grinned triumphantly as he extended his hand. Linda took his hand, rose, and they stepped onto the dance floor. I suspect they didn't notice my departure because I was out of the door before their first twirl. By the time my phone rang, 8 blocks had passed. Where the devil are you? Linda asked regretfully. I'm heading home to pack. Why? What on earth are you saying? Pack a bag? Where are you going? I don't know yet, I responded. All I know is that I'm leaving this place behind, I said. I've had enough, Harry. Can't you see it isn't about dancing? It's about respect and trust. You're planning to abandon 12 years of marriage over a single dance? Why continue a marriage with someone you don't feel affection or regard for? Frankly, I haven't observed any infidelity yet, but I have my suspicions about your behavior with that man you danced with. I noticed the way you both were exchanging glances as you headed towards the restroom. When he came over to our table, his demeanor was similar to how a man addresses another man's spouse when there's no romantic interest involved. Harry, she said in a quieter tone now, I do love and respect you. I assured you that nothing was happening between me and that man. I wouldn't betray you. How could you even suspect such a thing? It's preposterous. We haven't shared intimate moments for over 2 weeks. When we do, you barely participate. You just lie there. You've been moody and irritable for the last 2 months, and don't try to tell me that you respect me because it isn't true. You demonstrated it tonight. If you aren't involved with someone else, you're putting up a remarkably convincing act. There was nothing but silence on the other end of the line. Eventually, I apologize, Harry. I didn't realize. I apologize for my behavior tonight and the misunderstanding about my actions. Yes, I may have looked at that man on our way to the ladies' room. He was quite attractive. I noticed him while we were dancing, and it seems we saw each other at the same time, but I am not engaged in an affair with him. Please, darling, please come back for me so we can discuss this matter. No, as I previously stated, I have made up my mind. If you danced with that man, you should find your own way home, and I meant it. We are leaving for our house immediately. I will be gone by the time you get home. If there is an affair going on, perhaps you should just return to your lover and forget about me. Dear one, please trust me. I am not involved in an affair. Please listen to me carefully. I'll take a taxi, but please wait there until I get home so we can discuss our issues. I will be back soon, please. I arrived home, ascended the stairs, prepared my belongings, and departed our residence 12 minutes later. I pondered if she would indeed hail a taxi or if he'd drop her off. Therefore, I drove a block away, switched off my headlights, and waited. After approximately 15 minutes, a yellow cab pulled into our driveway. Linda exited the vehicle and hastened indoors. I observed what I wanted to see and departed for the motel. Almost instantly, my cell phone rang again. I silenced it. Although I lacked concrete evidence of infidelity, my suspicions were very strong. It seemed likely that Linda and the man she was dancing with were acquainted. I believed that now was an opportune moment to hire a private investigator. If I weren't at home, perhaps she would seek solace in her lover. The following day, I scanned the yellow pages and chose the PI with the most compelling advertisement. I visited his office, handed him an advance, and initiated my investigation. My secretary, Tracy, instructed me to contact my wife urgently. She mentioned Linda had phoned 20 times previously, and clearly something was amiss. I disclosed our ongoing issues, stating I wasn't going to answer her calls. I requested Tracy to convey this the next time she rang. Additionally, I informed the lobby receptionist to keep Linda out of the office if she visited. I wanted a detective to have uninterrupted time for investigation. The situation was now just a matter of waiting. Later in the day, a call came from Andrea, our neighbor. I anticipated it concerned Linda, yet wished to appear polite, so I picked up. "Harry," she started, recounting the incident involving Linda from the night before. Linda was anxious to apologize, but claimed I wouldn't speak with her. I concurred. I had nothing left to discuss. A sigh could be heard on the other line, and she added that you suspected Linda of infidelity. You don't genuinely believe that, do you? I admitted my suspicions. For over 2 months, her behavior has been unusual. That night only fueled my doubts. She claims she merely danced with a man, but that's not entirely accurate. I observed them exchanging glances before he even reached the table. He was disrespectful towards me, and Linda sided with him without hesitation. I had warned her about the potential fallout of dancing with such a person, yet she showed no concern. I believe they are lovers. Harry, pause. I'm certain you're mistaken. I've lived near you for years. I believe I would be aware if Linda was unfaithful to you, and I've never witnessed any signs of it. I've never noticed any suspicious vehicles or people there. Trust me, she acknowledges that dancing with him was inappropriate. She got angry because you forbade her from dancing with him, but she later admitted you were right. Have faith, Harry. I know Linda well, and she is not being unfaithful to you. She loves you. You're as aware as I am, Andrea, but I'm starting to doubt it now. It wasn't love driving her actions that night. That much is clear. Andrea, could you speak with her, please? Only talking can resolve this situation. I knew she was right, but I needed time for the private investigator. Andrea, would you do me a favor and tell her I'll reach out to her in a couple of weeks? I still have some thoughts to process. You sighed again, Andrea. All right, Harry, you replied. I'll inform her, but please call her then. Do you promise me? Please. I promise, I responded. We parted ways, and that set my thoughts racing once more. Andrea and Dawn, good friends of ours, were always truthful with us. I couldn't fathom Andrea deceiving me. If Linda was unfaithful, she did it covertly. For the following 2 weeks, I was filled with anxiety. I reached out to the investigator a couple of times, but he had no updates yet. Eventually, he called and asked for a meeting at his office. My stomach knotted as I settled into the chair. He slid a bulky paper bag towards me over the desk. My hand quivered as I picked it up. You can bypass the tedious parts, he said as I unfolded the initial page of his report. Just go to the end of page 5. Anxiously, I flipped through the pages until I reached what I sought. Confirmation. After a comprehensive examination, this office discovered no substantiation for the client's allegations of his spouse's infidelity. I must have gasped. I wasn't certain how to react. Indeed, it was welcome news, excellent news, but I'd been convinced she was unfaithful. Are you positive? I queried, turning my gaze back to the man seated behind the desk. Mr. Fremont, a surveillance team kept tabs on your wife for the past fortnight. We observed her home, intercepted her calls, and trailed her each time she left. We scrutinized her phone logs and credit card transactions. We found no trace, not even a whisper of an affair. Overwhelmed, I barely managed to hold back sobs in his office. Head home, Mr. Fremont. Return to your wife and child. I seldom witness joyous conclusions in my line of work. I acknowledged him and returned to my hotel room, needing time to contemplate. The weekend was spent pondering over the situation. On Monday, I contacted Linda. Her voice trembled as she responded. It's me, I said. How are you? You sound troubled. After a brief pause, she replied, Harry, dear Harry, I'm so sorry. Incredibly sorry. I don't know what to do if you won't return to us. I've been trying to stay strong for Jennifer, but all I do is weep. I'm sorry. It seems I took you for granted. You were absolutely right. I should have informed that man of my marriage and withdrawn. I heard her cry again. I didn't show you the respect you deserved, and I don't know why, because I do respect you. Her plea took me aback. Her demeanor was starkly contrasting from what it was at the nightclub. When I remained quiet, she misinterpreted my silence. You're returning, aren't you? I nodded and hastily clarified, but only temporarily. I want my wife back, Linda, not the woman I've been cohabiting with for the past 2 months. I mean the woman I fell in love with, the woman I married. She's here, Harry. In truth, she's here waiting for the man she loves, she said earnestly. We'll see. After everything, the bad behavior, the absence of intimacy, the disregard, I'm not completely convinced yet, Linda. Not just yet. I need to grab my belongings from the motel after work, but I'll be home tonight, I informed her. A brief pause followed before she responded. I adore you, Harry. I'm deeply regretful for how I behaved towards you. I don't wish to let you go. I can't guarantee I no longer harbor doubts. I was still agitated, and despite the clear proof, I just couldn't rid myself of the suspicion that Linda knew the man in the dance hall. Upon arriving home from work, I collected my belongings. Jennifer rushed towards me at the door, nearly catching hold of me. She questioned where I had been. I informed her that I was away for a while. Clearly, she was unaware of our issues. Linda was present as well. She wrapped her arms around me and lavished kisses on me. I reciprocated with fervent affection. After all, I couldn't deny my love for my wife. That occurred 2 years ago, and married life was blissful once more. Linda returned to being the woman I wedded, both in and out of the bedroom. A few months back, she organized a surprise birthday party for me. Previously, we made Linda's birthday a significant occasion, but my birthday celebrations began post-return home. Last night marked our 14th wedding anniversary. This time, Linda meticulously arranged the entire evening. Upon arriving home from work, she caught me off guard with dinner theater tickets for My Man of La Mancha, one of my favorite plays. Following this, we strolled along the lakeshore and admired the moonlit beach. A gentle breeze blew from the lake. As I expressed gratitude for our anniversary, I embraced her, pulling her close. Feeling an erection in my pants, she queried shyly, "What's this?" I suggested we head home to address the situation, and within a half hour we were in our bedroom, hurriedly undressing each other. It transpired that Linda hadn't relinquished control for the night. To this day, I am unsure whether she was unfaithful or not. Perhaps the truth will remain elusive. Delighted to be home, I find comfort in the fact that spring arrived early, allowing Linda to venture out without her winter coat for the first time. The remnants of April's gentle rain shower lingered, infusing the air with a fresh aroma. Memories of a peaceful sleep nestled in her husband's arms, listening to the soothing patter of raindrops, resurfaced. On her way to the car, she marveled at vibrant blue wildflowers blooming on the lawn, symbolizing resilience and new beginnings even amidst tough winters. Linda hummed tunes in the car, en route to a cafe to meet Kathy, an old friend whose son shares a bond with her daughter. Years prior, they crossed paths at a school function, bonded instantly, and maintained a lasting friendship. Kathy was the early bird, securing a cozy corner table by the window. As Linda entered, winding her way towards the door, they exchanged waves and warm smiles through the glass. The inviting scent of freshly brewed coffee permeated the bustling cafe, leading Linda to join the queue of patrons waiting for Colombian heaven. Upon spotting her pal, Kathy rose. "Hello," the duo chuckled in unison, embracing before settling down. "It's been a while," Linda remarked. "How are you?" A glimmer of happiness reflected in Kathy's eyes as she responded. The companions shared memories of yesteryears and burst into laughter, recalling humorous moments from school events. They brought each other up to speed on their kids, acknowledging how swiftly they were maturing. After an hour of conversation, Kathy leaned over the table and whispered. Kathy asked Linda quietly if she could keep a secret. "Sure," Linda replied, implying she was trustworthy. "What is it?" "I shouldn't really be telling anyone, but I have to confess something. I've been, well, I guess you could call it dating this man." Linda perked up and inquired, "Are you involved with him romantically?" Kathy playfully smiled. "We haven't taken things that far yet, but I'm considering it. I know it's not right, but when I'm with him, I feel so alive." His name is Cody. Don't you think it's a lovely name? I shouldn't be doing this, but I really like him and I fear he might lose interest if I don't take things further. Let me ask you something, Linda replied. Are you considering giving up your husband to him? She responded, absolutely not. I'm not contemplating marriage with the individual, merely a brief fling. What would one call it? To which she replied, the zest of life. She assured Bruce would never discover this, as it would devastate him. In addition, Cody is also married. We need to tread cautiously. Linda had been hiding a secret for the past 2 years that she hadn't shared with anyone, intending to maintain its secrecy. Looking at her friend, she took a calculated risk and said, Kathy, do you recall the time Harry left me for a while 2 years ago? Yes, I know it's been a while, but there were unspoken issues between us that I didn't fully understand. You never shared these details with me, and I didn't feel comfortable asking. I've never shared this with anyone, and I need your promise that you'll keep it secret. If word gets out, I'm convinced it would jeopardize my marriage. Linda waited for a signal before speaking again. After a brief moment, Kathy understood her friend's hesitation. Yes, I promise. If this becomes public knowledge, it could ruin my marriage as well. A waitress arrived to refill their coffee cups at that instant. Linda waited until they were both served before she continued. I'm not unique. I imagine most married women feel the same way after 12 years of marriage. The daily routine started to feel monotonous, and I couldn't help but wonder, what am I doing? Where am I going? It seemed like I was stuck with no real purpose in life. Kathy agreed wholeheartedly. I understand your feelings exactly. Kathy, I believe many women experience the same feelings. It's not about lacking love for your partner, Harry. I adore him deeply, but recently I felt like my affection wasn't sufficient, like something was amiss. I think I might have been slipping into a mild depression. Nothing brought me joy anymore, not even intimacy. It wasn't anyone's fault, specifically. Harry appeared worn out, particularly in our relationship. Despite this, I should have been the happiest individual, but nothing seemed to alleviate my distress. Even school events felt unbearable. Linda took a sip of coffee and looked at Kathy, gauging if her narrative had reached her. She noticed she had gained her attention, so she continued. Then I met Terry. Were you having an affair? Linda inquired with a slight nod. It was an emotional affair, yes. I became aware of it before it turned physical, thankfully, she said, sighing. Oh, God, that man. Kathy, he was striking. With rugged good looks, sun-kissed golden hair, and piercing blue eyes reminiscent of Robert Redford's, he towered over others, likely more than 6 feet tall. His physique hinted through his clothing, adding to his allure. I found myself unable to avert my gaze until he noticed me, causing a blush to rise on my cheeks. He returned my smile when he did. Our banter began. It was exhilarating and mouth-watering. However, I eventually regained composure. Determined to shop, I strolled through the grocery section. Fate had me collide with him as I reached for some tomatoes. He greeted me with his captivating blue eyes and charming smile, saying, "Hello." In that moment, Kathy, I felt a sudden sensation between my legs. So embarrassing. Praying he couldn't detect the scent emanating from me, I continued to blush. He extended his hand for an introduction. Straight away, he noticed my wedding rings, yet it didn't prevent him from attempting to engage with me. The thought of someone like him being interested in me was flattering. We conversed and joked in the aisles as we shopped. At the checkout, he provided his number, suggesting I invite him for lunch the following week. As I was leaving the store, I almost discarded his cart. Thoughts of Terry flooded my mind. Sure, I'll call you and we'll embark on this passionate romantic affair, ending with my husband killing us both. My friend inquired if I had actually done it. I hadn't thrown the card away. Instead, I put it in my purse. All through my drive home, Terry was all I could think about. Harry arrived as I was putting groceries away. Guilty, I reacted aggressively when he tried to assist. Maybe it was a subconscious defense mechanism. Poor Harry inquired if something was amiss, to which I responded, "Oh my goodness, what did you utter?" My response was, "Of course I fabricated." I explained that I was merely fatigued from shopping, though the truth was I was floating on cloud 9 in secret. Linda added, In any event, I shouldn't have reached out to him. It was wrong. I also knew that due to my emotional state, I was quite vulnerable. I kept repeating, no, 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 but I couldn't resist. I found one of the remaining payphones in town and dialed the number on the card he gave me. We had agreed to meet for lunch the following day. Kathy paused until her friend took another sip of coffee before resuming. On my way to the restaurant, I was a tumultuous mix of fear, excitement, and desire. At one moment, while we were conversing, Terry leaned over the table and grasped my hand. It felt almost like being a child on my inaugural date. I deeply yearned to sleep with this man, but my morals, or perhaps fear, prevented me, and in any case, I couldn't go through with it. Yet, Terry persisted. He commenced his pursuit by expressing that Harry doesn't recognize the extraordinary woman he is with and undervalues me. Unwittingly, I was captivated by this talk. My resentment towards my own husband grew. Swiftly, Terry managed to persuade me that Harry was taking our relationship for granted. My God, Linda, Kathy exclaimed. That sounds like my situation at the moment. She explained, I'm telling you all this, Kathy, so you know what you're stepping into. Does the man you're seeing mention your ex, Bruce, yet? Not at all. Upon reflection, Kathy questioned her response. Well, I guess not directly, she admitted. She was posing questions such as, doesn't your spouse realize how fortunate he is? Or so. Undeniably, this thought must have crossed your mind too, right? Well, Kathy, this situation has been unfolding without you even realizing it. When Harry departed from me, he mentioned that I had been dissatisfied with him for more than 2 months. It was something I wasn't conscious of. The same was happening in our bedroom. I found myself unable to be passionate with a man who I felt was taking me for granted. As she continued her narrative, the light bulb seemed to switch on in her friend's mind. Consider it, Kathy, she said. What kind of man would cheat with a married woman? Could you ever imagine Bruce doing such a thing? Of course not, Kathy replied. Bruce would never engage in anything like that. Exactly, Linda responded. So why risk your marriage for someone who might? Linda's words lingered in the air as Kathy contemplated them. Their lunch date was scheduled again the following week, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to remain faithful to Harry. On our third lunch together, he came close to persuading me to return to his apartment. I could sense his growing frustration with my evasions, understanding that another meal with him would likely lead to intimacy. As we departed the restaurant, following our third rendezvous, I brought up needing a new dress due to an upcoming anniversary celebration with Harry. I mentioned our favorite dance club, reminiscing about our past nights filled with music and movement. Seizing this chance, Terry suggested he would be there to dance with me. I warned him not to, acknowledging it was our anniversary and my husband might be upset if I danced with someone else. However, Terry displayed arrogance, stating his presence would teach Harry a lesson. He believed it would demonstrate that other men find me appealing, potentially awakening Harry, making him more appreciative of me. Goodness gracious, Linda, he certainly made an appearance, didn't he? Linda sipped her coffee, confirming it. Indeed, he did. I spotted him immediately upon entering. Naturally, I didn't dare speak to him. Our evening had been enjoyable until Terry approached and invited me to dance. Goodness gracious, Kathy murmured. Worse still, he completely disregarded Harry. In fact, he was downright rude towards him. Unsurprisingly, Harry distanced himself against the wall, giving me an ultimatum, stating I couldn't dance with him. Well, you know how foolish I can be sometimes, I replied, anger flaring up. I declared my intention to dance with him regardless. Harry threatened he wouldn't be there when we returned from the dance floor, but people often say such things, don't they? Who actually believes them? Kathy watched as Linda's eyes filled with tears, continuing her narrative. When we began dancing, I told Terry he shouldn't have behaved that way in front of Harry. I questioned him about his rude behavior, to which he replied that he intended to assert his dominance over Harry. Of course, this made me upset. Terry kept a tight hold on me during the dance. By then, I was primarily concerned that Harry was observing us and would become even more irate. In truth, my anxiety was so high that I didn't even notice when the first dance had ended and we moved on to the second one. After the dance concluded, I instructed Terry not to ask for another turn. I informed him that I intended to spend the rest of the evening with my spouse. I then made my way back to our table, only to see Terry trailing behind me. When I inquired about his actions, he said he wished to apologize to Harry. Upon returning to our table, however, Harry was absent. Terry took his seat and stated that he would wait for Harry's return with me. Frankly, I doubted that he intended to offer an apology at all. Instead, I believe he aimed to provoke Harry further. When Kathy inquired about the situation, I replied, I pondered why he might take such an action. It seemed his strategy was that since he hadn't succeeded in persuading me into a bedroom liaison, he would provoke disagreements between Harry and myself. I suspect he anticipated I would flee to him, seeking solace on his shoulder. I believe his plan was to console me within the confines of bedclothes before the night ended. Having determined that Harry was in the men's room, I instructed Terry to return to his table, but he kept delaying. Upon the waitress approaching us, he ordered more drinks. At this juncture, she inquired if we desired another tab. I questioned why a new bill was necessary when the previous one had been settled. She explained that Harry had already paid it before departing. Kathy, I swore, my entire life, and specifically my married life, seemed to flash before my eyes in an instant. I couldn't fathom how he abandoned me there. Linda's countenance grew more sorrowful as she narrated her tale, and it mirrored Kathy's. She empathized with her friend's distress, and her own emotions surfaced. A single tear trickled down Kathy's face and made its way along her cheek. You don't have to spill it all out, Linda, you said softly, noticing her tears. Perhaps we should pause. But she insisted, wanting to share the whole tale with you, Kathy, emphasizing its significance. Let me recap. You started, and I instantly retrieved my mobile phone to call Harry. I requested his return, revealing the suspicion he held about an affair, one he believed was between us and Terry. He mentioned leaving but wasn't certain of his return. Her voice cracked as she explained. Gosh, Kathy, that caught me off guard like a ton of bricks, dabbing at her eyes. The revelation brought clarity, illuminating the situation as if someone had switched on the lights. Harry hadn't been complacent. Instead, he made every effort to assist. Yet it was I who overlooked him, taking him for granted, disregarding Jennifer and our shared life together. I requested Harry return and retrieve me for a discussion, yet he failed to do so, prompting me to hail a taxi. Inquisitive about Terry, where was he all along? Kathy queried. Well, he wasn't ready to give up just yet. He contended that Harry didn't deserve me and suggested I return home with him. I retorted, laughing that the wretch should perish. That didn't stop him, though, as he persisted. He approached me outside, waiting for a cab. As the car arrived at the parking lot, he seized me in an attempt to kiss me. I retaliated by striking his groin with my knee. As he writhed in agony, I warned him that if he ever attempted contacting me again, I'd file a sexual harassment complaint. Kathy consoled her friend, patting her hand as Linda wiped away tears. In any case, when I arrived home, Harry was absent. I made attempts to reach him via his phone, but it was switched off. Kathy, I lamented, I was so anxious. All I could perceive was my marriage crumbling beneath me. Our family, everything we've strived for, dissipating into thin air. To you, Kathy, I must confess I've never felt this terrified before. The following day, I attempted to reach him at work, but he refused to speak with me. His secretary informed me that he instructed her not to let me see him if I visited. Desperate, I approached Andrea, my neighbor. Given Harry's fondness for Andrea and her husband, I thought perhaps he would talk to her. He did, but all he said was that he required time to ponder the situation, and he would contact me in a fortnight. Knowing that pressuring him would only worsen matters, I chose to give him some distance. Those 2 weeks were the most agonizing of my life. When Jennifer was present, I maintained composure, merely telling her that Daddy was away. But as soon as she was gone, I could only cry. I believed I had destroyed everything between us. Harry was so enraged, I hardly thought he would return to me, especially if he suspected infidelity on my part. Linda wept now, recalling the torment she experienced. I apologize, Kathy, she began. It's still difficult for me to discuss this topic. Moving on, Harry eventually phoned and informed me he was returning home. Kathy, I admitted, I nearly lost everything. It made me see what I had and how incredibly fortunate I am. In the end, Kathy, love should always surpass desire. I adore Harry and he cherishes me. As far as I'm concerned, no man in this world is worth jeopardizing that. Impressive, Kathy mused. I can't imagine if my husband abandoned me. Have you told Harry the truth about our situation? Honestly, after coming so close to losing him, I wouldn't risk it happening again. Kathy, I live in constant dread that one day he'll discover the truth, but ever since he returned, I've strived to be the best spouse I can be. I no longer take our marriage or him for granted. Daily, I express gratitude for my blessings and demonstrate my affection towards Harry wholeheartedly. All I aspire is that it will suffice if he ever discovers it. Kathy encouraged Linda, gripping her hand firmly. I'm relieved you confided in me. You prevented me from making a regrettable choice, Linda. Thank you, she replied. The girls conversed for a while longer, setting tentative dates for their next encounter before parting ways. Linda felt content, knowing she had shielded her friend from a poor decision. She reached her car just in time to welcome her daughter with a kiss and a post-school snack. Time flies, she mused. Jennifer will turn 10 soon. I wonder where the years have gone. Upon arriving home, Harry was back from work and Linda showered him with embraces and kisses. She had never disclosed that difficult phase of their marriage until that day. Nightfall found Linda recalling the wonderful life she and Harry had crafted as he peacefully dozed beside her. She turned to face him, supporting herself on an elbow, studying the lines etched by time on his visage. Each crease sparked a memory of when it formed. With a gentle trace, she mapped out some recent ones. Her heart swelled with adoration and love for the man of flesh and bone next to her. Quietly, Linda kissed him, but their lips met just as Harry smiled widely. He embraced his lovely spouse tightly and deepened the kiss. I thought you were asleep, Linda murmured. On the contrary, I was contemplating Jennifer's birthday gift, he responded. Do you know what she truly desires? What is it? A little sibling. This revelation wasn't entirely unexpected. They'd been debating whether to have another child, but never reached a conclusion. Linda smiled, indicating her husband had likely ended the discussion. Now, your birthday is just 2 months off, isn't it? Harry seemed to have anticipated this. You seem to have read my thoughts, he replied. True to his words, after 2 months, Jennifer turned 10 and celebrated with a grand outdoor party. Her parents welcomed all friends, serving plenty of ice cream and cake. Following the festivities, Linda and Harry surprised their daughter with yet another costly toy, hinting at the news of a new baby brother.